So we're diving into this world where data meets creativity. And I really wanted to introduce you to someone who's making waves in that space. Kirell Benzi. We're taking a deep dive into his work with data art. And we've got a treasure trove to unpack 3 interviews and even a presentation.
Yeah, and it's not just about the visuals, although those are definitely captivating. It's Kirell's understanding of how to transform complex data into something that resonates on an emotional level. Like, he's really bridging the gap between art and data science in a way that few others are.
He really is. He actually started his journey in the depths of academia, working on his PhD in network science. And in one of his interviews, he talks about this aha moment he had while trying to explain his research.
What's fascinating is that he hit a wall. Trying to communicate those complex ideas through traditional methods. Like, all the equations and charts in the world weren't getting through to people. They were far more intrigued by the story behind the data.
He actually said people were more attracted to the story than the math. It's like he realized that data, at its core, is a way of telling stories. And sometimes you need a more engaging medium than spreadsheets and graphs.
Absolutely. It's like he unlocked a new level of communication. Instead of just analyzing data, he began using those insights to craft narratives. He was using art as a bridge to make complex information not only understandable, but impactful.
And he uses this analogy of points and links to describe how he builds those narratives from data. Like, each data point is a piece of a puzzle. And the connections between them, the links, reveal the bigger picture.
And this is where Kirell's artistry comes in. Finding those connections, those threads of narrative within what might seem like a jumble of information. He's not just visualizing, he's interpreting, bringing his own perspective and creativity to the data without compromising its integrity.
He even had this one project.
Yeah.
And his collaborators basically said, we want to see a volcano make us a volcano out of this data. And the catch, the visualization still had to be readable, so people could actually glean information from it.
That's such a great example of the balancing act he performs. Staying true to the data itself while also shaping it into something visually compelling and even emotionally resonant. It's a bit like what we all do, trying to find meaning and patterns in the information around us.
Speaking of finding meaning, one of the things that struck me about Kirell's work is the sheer power of the visuals he creates. He uses a technique called style transfer in a project about Dubai and the city's waste. It ends up making these sleek modern buildings look like they're made of garbage, literally.
It's incredibly effective, isn't it? That jarring visual drives home the point about consumption and waste in a way that a chart or a graph simply couldn't. It's that ability to evoke an emotional response that makes data art such a powerful tool for communication.
It's like he bypasses that logical part of our brains and speaks directly to our senses. Like in that Complexity podcast interview, he's talking about how humans are wired to respond to images, and those images can trigger emotional responses. And those have a much deeper impact than just like presenting cold, hard facts.
And that's where data art goes beyond traditional data visualization, which, often prioritizes clarity and like adherence to specific rules. Kirell talks about this idea that you shouldn't use more than 8 colors in a visualization because the brain can't process it. But he's not afraid to bend those rules, to prioritize the emotional impact, to make you feel something.
Right. He even says, I'm not doing data visualization, I'm doing data art. And you see that in the range of his projects, everything from visualizing a massive data set of Pokemon to mapping out the hidden connections in Wikipedia.
That Wikipedia project is mind-blowing, like the scope of it. He visualized 8 months of data, billions of page visits, to create this intricate map of how people navigate information. And what's so compelling about it is that it reveals these unexpected connections between these seemingly disparate topics, highlighting the interconnected nature of knowledge itself.
It's like he's mapping out the collective curiosity of humanity. And speaking of revealing hidden connections, Kirell's work isn't limited to these big abstract ideas. He's also applied his approach to solve practical problems in really interesting ways.
Absolutely. He talks about transforming a traditional organizational chart into this dynamic, almost living visual representation, instead of just showing like hierarchy. It reveals the actual flow of communication and information within the company.
So instead of a static snapshot, you get a sense of the company's pulse, how it actually functions day to day.
Exactly. And in another project, he visualized the email network within a bank. And the image that emerges looks like this intricate jellyfish. But what's fascinating is that the visual isn't just aesthetically pleasing, it actually highlights potential vulnerabilities in the bank's cybersecurity.
So he's using data art to help organizations visualize their own blind spots, potentially preventing security breaches before they even happen. It's incredible to think that something as abstract as data art could have such a tangible impact on something as critical as cybersecurity.
Yeah, and that speaks to Kirell's core philosophy, that every data set has a story to tell, whether it's the interconnectedness of knowledge, the flow of information in a company, or even the potential vulnerabilities in a system. He's found a way to make those stories visible, engaging, and ultimately meaningful.
It's like he's revealing this hidden language of data. And by doing so, he's making it accessible to a much wider audience. He even has this great video, Learn Data Art to Boost Your Career.
Yes, okay.
Where he talks about how anyone can incorporate elements of his approach into their own work, even if they don't consider themselves artists.
That's so important because, in a world increasingly driven by data, being able to communicate insights effectively is such a powerful skill. And Kirell emphasizes approaching data with curiosity, like an artist seeking inspiration, and experimenting with different ways to visualize those insights, moving beyond the standard charts and graphs.
It's like he's encouraging us to play with data, to find new ways to make it sing. And that ultimately circles back to the idea of storytelling. Kirell reminds us that data is most impactful when it tells a story, when it connects with us on an emotional level.
And those stories are everywhere, just waiting to be uncovered. Whether you're trying to make a compelling argument in a presentation, gain a deeper understanding of your own work, or even just make sense of the world around you, data can be a powerful tool.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Kirell Benzi and data art, I don't know about you, but I'm left with this sense of possibility. He's shown us that data can be more than just numbers on a screen. It can be beautiful, thought-provoking, and even a catalyst for change.
Absolutely. And as you continue to explore the intersection of data and creativity, I wonder, what stories will you uncover? How will you use the language of data to illuminate the world around you?